My ex-boyfriend Toby passed away in the hospital 5 days ago as a result of injuries sustained in a car accident. He was 22. I had known him since we were 13, as we went to the same school, and we dated for over a year between the ages of 18 and 19. It still feels very strange to talk about him in the past tense. He was my first love and first everything. We broke up amicably when we realized that long distance at university wasn't working and was taking a toll on both of us. We remained on good terms with one another, though we didn't speak nearly as much after breaking up. Last year, I began a relationship with my current boyfriend, Max. I love Max, and he has always been communicative, emotional, and empathetic, which is part of the reason I love him so much. He is my emotional support. The recent news has hit me very hard, not only because it is such a shock and because Toby had so much of his life left to live, but because I regret not keeping in touch with him more. Toby was always quite a lonely person, and I feel as though we should have stayed closer friends because I was his best friend and main support when we were dating. I can't bear the idea of him not having a best friend there for him when he died. Needless to say, I have not been myself these past few days and have been grieving his death. I spent the whole night crying when I first found out. Max was comforting at first, but over the last couple of days, he became reserved and moody with me, which is not like him at all. For example, he would turn away from me in bed when I asked him to hold me, and his general manner has been pretty cold. I asked him what was wrong, and he told me he was surprised I noticed anything was wrong since I'm so busy grieving another relationship. I was shocked and told him I'm not grieving the relationship, but a friend whom I have known for years. He told me it was disloyal to grieve so openly over an ex, and if I was truly over my previous relationship, I wouldn't be grieving. He then essentially implied that I must have been having some sort of emotional or physical affair with Toby still, or, at the very least, that I was still in love with him. I told Max that I didn't have to be in love with Toby to still have love for him and care for him as a friend, meaning I have a right to grieve his death and I have a right to my emotions. He seemed to find this to be further confirmation that I was not over Toby and told me that if our relationship was enough, then I wouldn't be grieving. I am stunned by his stance on this. On the one hand, I can understand that it is not nice to watch your girlfriend mourn another romantic partner, but I can't believe he is questioning our relationship or my loyalty because of it. What do I do? Am I out of line? Is he out of line? This ordeal has really shaken my view of him. To add, my grieving has manifested as me being quieter and less talkative than usual, not wanting to go out to eat or for entertainment, and not wanting to watch violent television shows because I don't want to think of or see reminders of how my friend died in pain. I keep my thoughts to myself, and I haven't asked Max for much other than to hold me at night a couple of times because I felt cold and alone. I have been trying to get on with life as normal. Almost forgot. I want to thank most of you for your advice and perspectives, including those who think I am in the wrong and those who are offering sensible perspectives as to what Max might be feeling right now and how we can communicate with one another. I apologize that I cannot respond to you all, but I have read nearly all the comments and am grateful for your opinions. And for those who are vilifying my grief, thank you for giving me the perspective that maybe Max's reaction isn't so bad. It's amazing how far people can take small details and run with them. I am not an emotional wreck, nor in a deep depression. I have gotten dressed, washed, gone to work at my emotionally demanding job, cooked and cleaned every day this week. I have mentioned being quieter than usual, but I am by no means cold or distant, as some people have reported. I have been nothing but kind to Max really and treasured his company even more so in the face of my own mortality when he was behaving normally during the first 2 days in the aftermath of Toby's death. I mention not being myself because I usually expend a lot of energy catering to others and making them feel good, whereas I don't feel I have the energy to do that at the moment. As I said, I cried only when I first found out, which is a very rare occurrence for me. I only tend to cry when I am truly taken by surprise by something tragic. As for the assumptions about Toby, as I said, We have known each other from the age of 13 when he was in my class of 17 children at school. I would classify us as friends from that point and best friends from the age of 16 onwards. His presence was prevalent throughout my childhood. I never said we had been out of contact for years. Rightly, when we broke up, we took some emotional distance from one another, but remained in contact as friends. We used to see each other around fairly often as our childhood homes are very close. All our communication was above board. Max even follows Toby's social media accounts. We did not break up because of logistics or location, but because we realized that our communication styles were not compatible and we were dragging each other down at a formative point in our lives. We never thought we would be together forever, and decided to make it a clean and amicable break while we could. I do not regret this, and I never looked back to Toby as a potential suitor. It is only now that I wonder if, despite the breakup, I could have been more there for him emotionally as a friend because he struggled to intimately connect with people and share his feelings. I am staying at my sister's house today and will likely speak to Max in person tomorrow. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You are not out of line. Max just showed his true colors: immature, petty, jealous, and selfish. Yes, he is. All of them. At 24, he's behaving more like a mean, spoiled 11-year-old, and there's absolutely no excuse or rational reason for it. The unexpected death of someone so young is devastating enough for all the reasons you listed, that he had so much ahead to live for, compounded with the shock and horror of all. And then that even if it was no longer a romantic love, you still loved each other as friends. Forget the sunk cost fallacy of being in a relationship with Max for a year, so maybe you can try to work this out. His mask slipped. He was never as empathetic as he led you to believe. Real empathy doesn't take cheap potshots at you for grieving after only 5 days of such a catastrophic loss. Forget Max. Toby's last gift to you was showing Max's true nature on his way out. You can do better. Comment 2. The death of a young friend is unexplainably painful. It's the first time you face your own mortality, and you somehow have to rearrange your life without someone you didn't expect to die. Don't keep your thoughts inside. Talk with friends who knew him and who understand or share your pain. Go visit a place he liked and leave a flower. Find a funny picture, remember a cute moment together. Don't suppress your pain. And if your boyfriend thinks that your relationship with him should be enough and you don't need anything or anyone beside him, have a serious talk with him and keep an eye on other red flags. Is he not wanting you to experience things alone? How often do you avoid doing things you like because he doesn't like them, or he subtly asks you not to do things alone? Now, for the update. 2 days after my last post, I went back home from my sister's, feeling like I really needed to face Max. Not gonna lie, I was pretty anxious about it. I was hoping that spending some time away would help us both cool off and maybe see things more clearly. When I got home, I found Max on the couch, scrolling through his phone and avoiding eye contact like crazy. I went up to him and gave him a little smile, trying to lighten the mood, but he just stayed glued to his screen like I wasn't even there. So I sat down next to him, trying to start some kind of conversation, but he was silent as a rock. After a few awkward minutes of him ignoring me, I brought up Toby, thinking maybe sharing some memories would help us reconnect. But wow, was I wrong. Max suddenly snapped at me, accusing me of not caring about our relationship and only focusing on the past. I was really surprised. I mean, grieving a friend doesn't mean I'm moving backward, right? But he didn't want to hear it. He stood up, frustrated, and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him like a scene from a bad movie. I was left sitting there, feeling totally overwhelmed. I decided to distract myself by cleaning up the living room, trying to keep things normal in this chaos. While I was cleaning, I found a piece of Toby's old artwork tucked away in a box, and it sparked all these memories of our friendship. It was bittersweet, to say the least. I missed him so much. Later that evening, Max came back home, but he was still avoiding my gaze, focusing on the TV like it was the most interesting thing in the world. I tried to engage him, but he brushed me off, saying he was tired and needed space. It was like talking to a wall, I swear. Days went by like this. Then I got a message from Toby's sister, inviting me to a family dinner. I accepted right away, hoping to find some comfort and connection with people who knew Toby well. At the dinner, the atmosphere was somber, but filled with shared stories and laughter about Toby's antics. It made me feel a little better, being around people who cared about him. Max, on the other hand, chose not to attend, citing work commitments, which really frustrated me. I mean, come on, how much work can one person have? Anyway, after the dinner, Toby's sister slipped me a note that revealed a hidden letter Toby had written before he passed away. The letter was so emotional. It contained details of his dreams and wishes, including a mention of me, expressing how much I meant to him. I was crying like a baby reading it. It made me realize how important it was to keep his memory alive, so I decided to plan a small tribute event in Toby's honor, inviting friends and family to celebrate his life. I thought it would be a good idea for Max and me to do together. I presented the idea to Max, hoping it would bring us closer, but he reacted coldly again, saying it was just more of an excuse to avoid our issues. That started a big argument. I spent the next week organizing the event, reaching out to mutual friends and Toby's family for support. It felt good to focus on something positive, even though things with Max were still rocky. On the day of the tribute, Max showed up unexpectedly, clearly not happy to be there. He had this scowl on his face that made me want to roll my eyes. During the event, Max confronted me in front of everyone, claiming I was manipulating the situation. I was so shocked and embarrassed. Like, really? This was my friend's memorial, not some soap opera. As the tribute concluded, he stormed off, leaving me surrounded by supportive friends who helped me through it. Despite everything, the event was a huge success. We all shared heartfelt stories about Toby, and it felt like he was there with us. Later, I found out that Toby's family had decided to create a scholarship in his name, which was such an honor. It deepened my connection to his legacy, and I felt like I was doing something meaningful for him. Edit. Max and I had a long conversation about everything that happened. He admitted he felt insecure about my connection with Toby. We're working on our communication issues and trying to heal together. Am I the idiot for leaving my lazy boyfriend who spent more time with his phone than with me? I never had an issue with intimacy videos before this man showed me how completely consumed a person can fall into it. We used to watch it together sometimes until it was clear he spent hours watching it on his own to the point of not being able to stay aroused while we would try to have intimacy. This was damaging to my mental health, but more to our relationship as a whole. When I'd find him subscribing to unclothed pages, saving videos to his phone, and hiding all the suspicious behavior. Anyway, I had his phone earlier because we switched carriers and I had to call to have his number changed over and whatnot. And curiosity got the best of me, so I looked at his bookmarks. I kid you not, he had 1,120 favorited links saved, and they were literally all intimacy videos. So many different sites, some I never even heard of, but 85% of all of them were Japanese intimacy videos. I'm as white as a ghost, as is he. I have zero issues with kinks or fetishes because when I'm in bed, I just want to please. I'll try anything twice and really haven't said no to anything ever. I dress up and follow orders, etc. But I cannot be Asian. He has never expressed that this was a type that he particularly preferred, so I am just completely thrown off. Like, I don't even know him now. We are really big into watching different cultural channels, and now I'm just thinking back, wondering if he was turned on any time a Japanese girl was making silly voices and looking all cute. I know it's my insecurity, but if that's what really gets him excited, I can never be that for him. I'm broken right now, and honestly, over the 6 years he's lived with me, I've had plenty of reasons to make him leave, but haven't brought myself to do it. I have 4 dogs who are senior age now, and I really hate the thought of them being alone while I'm at work for 11 hours a day. He has never worked, cleaned the house, asked how my day was, or anything other than gaming and watching YouTube while he smokes marijuana constantly. But all of these things I've just shut away in my mind because I've gotten used to being unhappy and don't have the courage to kick him out with no income, friends, family, or transportation. But I think I can't forget this one. So anyway, if you're still reading, It is totally okay for him to like what he likes, and I don't hold it against him as a person. But I think it's also okay for me to not want to stay with him over it just because of the incompatibility of his intimacy videos addiction versus my actual intimacy needs. Can you give me advice or your opinions, please? Am I foolish for something so trivial to be the final straw? I just feel like 6 years is already a huge chunk of our lives to spend unhappy, and I don't know if I have much more I can spare. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Don't fall for the sunken cost fallacy. This will only escalate. That's how addiction works. There is nothing you can say or do to fix this. You either learn to live with his addiction, or you kick him out and see a therapist. You may want to check out this site, loveisrespect.org. There's a quiz called, Is My Relationship Healthy? You should probably take it. Comment 2. He is nothing but dead weight. I think you'll be so much happier with him gone, and you'll figure out the rest. You only have one life. Is this how you want to do it? Now, for the update. It's been about 6 weeks since I found out my boyfriend's really into corn. I decided to talk to him after I saw the bookmarks on his phone. He first said it wasn't a problem, but then admitted he watches it every day. We had a big fight about how this affected us. He ignored my feelings and said it was just a hobby. I moved into the guest room to get some space. I started thinking about what to do next while dealing with everyday stuff. His lack of motivation became more obvious as he stayed in bed late. One day, I found him playing video games instead of applying for jobs like he said he would. I felt frustrated, so I set up a family dinner to talk things over. My parents came over, worried about my relationship. During dinner, my dad joked about how I should get a real man. I laughed it off, but I could see my boyfriend getting defensive. After dinner, we had a tense talk about my family's opinions. He said I didn't defend him enough. I told him he needed to help out more at home. He stormed out, saying he didn't want to be part of a family that judged him. I decided to take a weekend trip to clear my head, leaving him behind. While I was away, he texted me, asking if I was seeing someone else. I came home and found his gaming friends over, which annoyed me. I confronted him about his accusations, and it turned into another argument. He finally agreed to get help, but only if I supported him through it. I went to a local pet store to buy stuff for the dogs, needing a break. While there, I ran into an old friend who asked about my relationship. I shared some details, and she suggested I think about my own happiness first. I went home and found him looking through my phone while I was gone. He said he was curious, but I felt violated. We had a heated talk about privacy and trust. He said he was only trying to understand my perspective. 2 weeks later, I found out he secretly used my credit card for game purchases. I confronted him, and he apologized, saying he would pay me back. I set up a meeting with a therapist for him, which he reluctantly agreed to. At the session, he opened up about his struggles but downplayed how serious it was. I came home one day to find him looking into online courses for a job. We went to a holiday party together, and he seemed distant. I caught him sneaking away to text someone during the party. I approached him, and he quickly put his phone away, saying it was nothing. The tension was obvious as we left the party without speaking. I finally decided to take a break from the relationship to focus on myself and the dogs. I told him I'd be staying with a friend for a while to think things through. He reacted by saying he didn't think I'd actually do it. I packed my things, leaving the door open for future talks. He didn't try to stop me as I walked out, which felt like a turning point. To answer a few questions, my boyfriend is 32 and I am 31. We have been together for 6 years and share 4 dogs. Am I the idiot for challenging my family's plan to marry off my teenage cousin to a much older man? My cousin from my maternal side is a 17-year-old girl, and her family is a very conservative family from rural India. And by conservative, I do not mean the Western sort who are a bit religious, but otherwise okay. My aunt and uncle don't even let my cousin wear jeans, leave her house without someone accompanying her, or even befriend a boy. They pulled her out of school after the 10th grade, since they thought she didn't need to have school education beyond that, and should instead learn household tasks. Now, when we visited them last week, they told us about how their daughter was getting old enough and that they were thinking of marrying her off after she turned 18. This already made me feel grossed out because I am literally 2 years older than her and haven't even been in a single relationship myself. Then the worst part is that they are thinking of marrying her to one of the neighboring village's landowners, a literal 43-year-old widower. They said how he owns a few mills and factories in the village and is an honest man who didn't want any dowry, but I was already feeling too disgusted by this nonsense. Later I asked my cousin, and she seems really scared to say anything. She's really sweet and kind, and can never think of disobeying her parents. I tried to ask her some questions, and she eventually said that she did not mind the man, and he seemed kind and nice and treated her well, but I still feel very concerned about this whole situation. She's a sweet and silent kind of girl who never had many friends and probably hasn't talked to a boy apart from her family in her life. She would be totally helpless married to a man so much older. She said that she can't oppose what her parents are doing, and that they must be doing it because they want what is best for her. Later she said that she is scared to say anything and that whatever will happen for the best. As per Indian law, the legal age of marriage is 21 for both men and women. But the system is quite confusing to the point I do not know whether the police can or will do anything against this, especially after the marriage is done. Few people care in India, and the police will probably turn a blind eye to this since my uncle and the landowner are both influential people. My question is, what can I do? I feel creeped out by the fact that my cousin is being given off in marriage to a man more than double her age, while she herself is so confused and sweet that she can't really voice herself. Also, my parents were talking later on how I, a 20-year-old female, am old enough to be married off too. So I am extremely worried now that if she gets married, I'll be next. How can I help her get out of this situation? If I don't, she'll be married off without her approval, and I might be next. I'll say this at the beginning. Telling her to speak to her parents is of no use. Firstly, she is too shy to say anything against her parents. And secondly, her parents probably won't listen to her. Now for an update. First things first, she is still 17, but is going to turn 18 this month, and the marriage is planned for December. So at least it's not pedophilia. Having cleared that. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm Indian, and I think there's nothing you can do about this unless your parents are willing to take her in to live with them and pay for her education. My advice would be different if she at least completed school and could get a job. But even then, the situation in a rural, conservative family is dire, and your cousin would be in danger if she didn't obey her parents. All you can do is maintain contact and offer her your support. Comment 2. From my understanding, forced marriages are illegal in India. You could tip off your local police force or someone else who might care with evidence from your cousin that she doesn't consent to this and that she is under the legal marrying age. And the fact that this man is 43 and only waited until she turned 18 doesn't mean it's not pedophilic. If he had an interest in her before now, then he's a predator either way. Now for the update. I'm back with an update on my cousin's forced marriage situation. A few days after my last post, my cousin messaged me on WhatsApp. She invited me to a Diwali gathering at their house. Her parents are super excited about her wedding during the festivities. That made me feel sick. I told her I'd be there because I wanted to talk to her in person about all this. When I got there, the place was lit up with lights and all kinds of food. I was pretty hungry, so I went to eat right away. I noticed my cousin looking anxious while helping in the kitchen, like she was scared something bad was about to happen. After dinner, I pulled her aside to talk privately in a quiet corner of the house. She was really nervous. She told me she overheard her parents discussing plans for the wedding ceremony. I asked her if she wanted to speak up against the marriage, but she hesitated. She mentioned a family elder who might support her, but she was scared of family backlash. I suggested we meet this elder, who is known for being more progressive. She reluctantly agreed to the plan, and we arranged to meet the elder the next day. The next morning, we visited the elder's home, which was a modest place filled with plants and books. She welcomed us warmly and invited us to sit and talk over tea. We explained the situation about the marriage and my cousin's feelings. She listened closely and nodded, expressing concern about the marriage proposal. She shared stories of other young girls from the village who faced similar situations. She promised to help by speaking to my cousin's parents about the marriage. I went home after that, and that evening we all had family dinner. The atmosphere was really tense. My uncle, who is known for his strict views, seemed suspicious about our conversation. My cousin looked nervous as her parents started discussing wedding preparations. I spoke up, mentioning the elders' concerns about the marriage's implications. They dismissed my comments, insisting they know what's best for their daughter. I pressed further, questioning the wisdom of such a quick marriage. The conversation escalated, with my parents arguing about tradition versus modern views. My cousin finally spoke up, saying she feels unprepared for marriage. Her parents expressed anger, calling her ungrateful for their sacrifices. I had to step in there, providing examples of peers who faced similar pressures but found happiness on their own terms. They reluctantly agreed to delay the wedding for a few months while they reconsider their options. I suggested using the time to explore education or work opportunities together. The family dynamic has shifted since then. My parents are trying to understand their daughter's viewpoint, which is a big deal. Weeks have passed, and the wedding date is officially postponed. My cousin finally has some space to breathe. Now we're planning a small trip to the city to explore colleges. I hope this whole thing is really over and done with. I'm so glad my cousin is getting some time to breathe and actually think about her future. It's been a wild ride for both of us, and seeing her so relieved is just the best. We're just gonna take it slow for now and figure things out together. It's just nice to see some hope, you know? If anything crazy happens, I'll make sure to update. Edit. The elder spoke to my cousin's parents and suggested a community project instead of an immediate marriage. My cousin is now involved in a local arts program, giving her time to explore her options. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.